It's time for Comeback Sports with Brandon, the Coach Perry, and Pat, the Shot Caller Flaherty. Here we go.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Comeback Sports. As usual, I am your host, Pat, the Shot Caller Flaherty, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Brandon, the Coach Perry. Folks, Comeback Sports, we usually do 10 sports topics, but this week, we're at 24 hours from the NFL draft, so we are doing our own Comeback Sports mock draft. Brandon, what's happening, my friend? Excited to get going on this mock draft. How about you?
Super excited. I mean, this is like the live version of Madden, and we're about to dive into it, boys. So give us a subscribe, give us a like, and let's dive into this draft, this mock draft. And for you guys at home, obviously, this is what me and Pat would pick if we were the GMs of these 32 teams. It's going to be a lot different tomorrow night, and you might be able to tune in with us tomorrow night for a live draft show as well.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, this is what we think these teams should do, not what we think is going to happen tomorrow night. And folks, if you want to follow us on social media, you can see our two social media or our Twitter handles at the bottom of the screen. Also, right in the middle of that screen, we have a call-in number now. You can call in live. If you don't like what we're talking about, or if you love what we're talking about, it doesn't matter. Give us a call. We'll see if we can talk to you on the phone. If you want to chirp in on some of these picks that we're giving you tonight, we're going to have this phone number continuously throughout every show that we do from here on out. So make sure you try to call in if you want to talk to us. But we're going to get going here in the Comeback Sports mock NFL Draft 2021. I'm going to start things off because I like it easy for me in the very first pick. With the first pick of the 2021 mock NFL Draft for Comeback Sports for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am taking, surprise, surprise, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is the most pro-ready quarterback coming out coming out of college since Andrew Luck. We've seen him for 3 years. I think Trevor Lawrence is just a slam dunk pick. This is easy. If the Jaguars take more than 2 minutes with this pick, I'm going to be mad. You know who you're taking. Just give the card to the commissioner, please.
Yeah, to be honest, this guy was the first pick last year if he came out last year as well. Yep. But he just waited. So it's, this pick's a lock. You got the good one there. And you get to pick the Patriots later on, you bugger. All right, my pick, though, rolling on the New York Jets. And this is not who they're going to take tomorrow night, but I think they should take this guy. We've talked about him being the second best quarterback all week long, all prior to the draft right now. I think he is the second best quarterback available behind Trevor Lawrence, and that is Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State University. Lock it in.
There you go, my friend, Justin Fields. I know I don't like that he's dropping in the draft. I would take him second overall as well. I agree with you. I think he'd be perfect for the Jets. I'm not sure why they think Zach Wilson would be the guy, but you pick Justin Fields. I think it makes total sense. If I'm the 49ers now, with the number 3 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I would take Zach Wilson. He's left over after not being picked by the Jets second overall. This was a tough pick for me because I really like Trey Lance. So I would even think about taking Trey Lance third overall, especially with all the different pre-snap things he was responsible for at North Dakota State. But you have more tape on Zach Wilson. You know, he played at a higher level of competition. So I think if this were the opportunity for the 49ers, if Fields was already off the board, I would take Zach Wilson.
I like Zach Wilson. I think he is going to be a good NFL quarterback, but I think Justin Fields is better than him. That's why I think Justin Fields should go ahead of him to the New York Jets. And I also think Justin Fields is more ready for the big lights of New York City in the media there compared to Zach Wilson coming out of BYU. But rolling on to the 4th pick, the Dirty Birds, baby, Atlanta Falcons, okay? Wish I could do that Dirty Bird dance for you right now. But this guy, I honestly think, is the best. And there it is. Bang it out. This is the best NFL stud right now. He is ready to play. Like I've talked about all week, the combination of a wide receiver and a tight end, unbelievable matchup-wise. We're talking about, like I said, the best player in the draft, in my opinion, Kyle Pitts, tight end out of the University of Florida. Lock him in for the Falcons.
I think that makes sense.
I think they're going to pick him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is definitely going to happen. One of the things that we heard this week, too, is that Julio Jones might be on the trading block. So if they're trying to trade Julio Jones, because they're over the cap, they got to make cap room. You're going to bring in another dynamic pass catcher, the guy that is going to change your entire offense and make the other offensive weapons better. That's going to be the guy, Kyle Pitts. So I think that makes all the sense in the world for Atlanta. They're going to take the most talented player that everybody's saying is the most talented player in the draft. I think it's between him and Trevor Lawrence as the top 2 talented players. Number 5 overall, the Cincinnati Bengals. We don't want to make this too complicated for Cincinnati, okay? You got your franchise quarterback last year in Joe Burrow. He was excellent before he got injured his rookie season. So because of that, because he tore his ACL, because it was from a pass rusher, I think the Bengals, with the 5th pick overall, should take offensive tackle Penei Sewell. Protect your young quarterback. Invest in protecting your young quarterback. That's why I took Sewell.
Great pick. I mean, like I've talked in the past, these offensive tackles are some of the safer picks. These offensive linemen are ready to go. They are NFL ready. He is the best offensive lineman right now in the draft. Great pick. Moving on, we're going to the Dolphins in Miami, baby, getting ready for F1. But right now we're in the draft for Miami. And, hey, I say you keep Tua, you give him another weapon. LSU has been producing wide receivers like it's their second job. Obviously, they had Justin Jefferson last year. He was the best wide receiver in the draft, I believe. And this year, arguably, you might have the best wide receiver again besides Devontae Smith. But I'd have to say, lock this pick in for the Dolphins. Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, top wide receiver, probably the second best pass catcher behind Kyle Pitts. Just a tough receiver, not huge, but plays big, goes up and gets the football, runs guys over. The only thing you got to think about is he didn't play last year. He opted out. So does that affect the pick at all? I think that's something you got to think about, but he's definitely one of the best pass catchers. That makes sense for Miami.
He's fresh, baby.
He's got his legs under him. Number 7 overall in the 2021 Comeback Sports NFL mock draft, the Detroit Lions take cornerback Patrick Surtain. Surtain's the best corner in the draft. Detroit's got a new head coach, Dan Campbell, who wants to bite ankles. He wants to have a tough team. There's a few ways you could go here with either, they might even go linebacker with Micah Parsons this early. They could go after Rashawn Slater, who's a very tough, hard-nosed offensive lineman, but I think, they want to get better on defense. Best way in today's NFL to get better on defense is get that lockdown, shut-down corner. I think Surtain can be that kind of guy. His dad was an awesome corner for the Dolphins back in the day. I'm taking Patrick Surtain.
Great pick, solid pick. I think he's going to be a solid NFL player, one of those guys that is pretty much NFL ready right now. Moving on to the number 8 pick overall, you brought the guy up, Rashawn Slater, one of the best offensive linemen that's still going to be available at this point. If I'm the Panthers, I think I need to protect Sam Darnold. Obviously, earlier today, they just traded Teddy Bridgewater. So at this point, they're all in with Sam Darnold, or maybe they're trying to get another quarterback. But hey, let's go ahead, protect our quarterback. Sam Darnold, we don't want him seeing ghosts, do we? We definitely don't want him seeing ghosts, so let's protect him. So I'm going to go with Rashawn Slater, offensive lineman.
I think this makes all the sense in the world. They could take a quarterback there, but Darnold's biggest problem with the Jets was the team was terrible. He didn't have good coaching there either. So you don't want that same thing to happen in Carolina. You just made an investment in this guy. Now protect him. And now make sure that he has all the opportunity in the world to fulfill the potential that we all thought he had coming out of USC. With the number 9 pick in the 2021 mock NFL draft here at Comeback Sports, for the Denver Broncos, even though they just traded for Teddy Bridgewater, that was the team that traded for Teddy Bridgewater just now. We were talking before the show about how much we respect Teddy Bridgewater. Solid quarterback. You can't go wrong with him. He's going to steer the ship well for you. But for the Broncos, they always, they have so many good receivers who can get downfield, especially Courtland Sutton. You have Noah Fant, the tight end that they took 2 years ago, who's a very dynamic weapon. If they want a guy that can get the ball down the field. So I'm going to take Trey Lance, the quarterback out of North Dakota State, with the 9th pick overall for the Denver Broncos.
We've all talked about how Trey Lance is going to get drafted in the first round. Just depends on where he's going to go and what team really wants to make a move on him. Like I said, I think Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence are definitely better than this guy. But arguably, between him and Zach Wilson, it's kind of a toss-up on who that third best quarterback is. But moving on to the Cowboys, the big star, the big D, son. We're going to Dallas. All right, let's pick up some barbecue while we're down there. But I'm going to go ahead and take arguably the other best defender available, J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. This guy is ready right now. He can defend inside. He can play the slot and defend outside as well. So I think this guy is ready to pretty much play any NFL wide receiver. And like I said before on one of our pre-draft shows, I think you could move him back to safety if you needed to as well. All around, good player, good speed, good ball, technique and good ball skills. I think this guy's ready to go. I think the Cowboys need a defender. It's time to pick one.
Yeah, I'm hearing the Cowboys love Patrick Surtain, but he's not available for our particular mock draft. So this makes total sense too. Horn is definitely the second best corner in this draft, and a lot of people like him just as much as Surtain. So this is a good pick for Dallas. Another guy who has a dad who played in the NFL, most famously for pulling a cell phone out from underneath the goalpost pad. So, another guy, when you have sons of NFL players or sons of ex-athletes, they've been in pro locker rooms before. Their families are used to the money. I know that's kind of sounds weird, but it's true. Like, you get a lot of money real quick, and your dad's going to be telling you this is what you need to do with it. So I think that's anytime you can draft a son of an NFL player or any pro player, I think it makes all the sense in the world. I'm going to do the 11th pick in just a second, but folks, again, if you're liking what you're seeing here on Comeback Sports, make sure you give us a subscription on YouTube. You're watching us on YouTube right now. Give us a subscription. We'll make sure we mention you on our next Comeback Sports show. Once you make that subscription, we'll tell you your number 32, 33, or whatever number you are to subscribe to. Also, right now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, all the way to the left, you are going to see our call-in number right there. Call in, give us your opinion about this mock draft or any of the shows we've done in the past, and just let us know, your opinions about what's going on here in the NFL draft or anything else. And you can also leave us a voicemail there as well, but it's a live call-in number now, so make sure you dial that in if you got something to say about what's going on here. And finally, you can follow us on Twitter. Brandon and I are both there. You've seen us. Our Twitter handles will pop up at the bottom of the screen a few times during the show. So back to the mock NFL draft number 11. We got the New York Giants on the clock. And for the Giants, they need offensive line help. They have a young quarterback, Daniel Jones. I didn't love him coming out of school. The Giants made the investment in him, so you got to protect him. We've been talking about protecting young quarterbacks. So I am taking Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech, the offensive tackle. Another guy that I think could also slide into guard if you need him to, but offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. He's the best offensive lineman available. You take him at number 11 for the New York Giants. Protect Daniel Jones.
I've got the Eagles pick here at number 12. And honestly, if I'm the Eagles, I think I need to get up and step up my defense here and bring in a secondary guy. And one of the better secondary guys that's still available is Greg Newsome II out of Northwestern. So I'm going to go ahead and move on him. I'm going to improve my secondary instantly. And guess what? When the Cowboys have now just drafted a cornerback and improved their secondary in a pass-heavy league, I've really got to stop the pass. If I'm the Eagles, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm keeping pace with the Cowboys in my division. I'm going to take a defender.
Makes total sense. This isn't as much of a defense-heavy draft that's deep, but it's a kind of a top-heavy defensive draft, especially in the secondary. That makes total sense right there for the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 13 for the San Diego Chargers, once again, protect your young quarterback. Chargers have some good weapons there in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. So if I'm the Chargers at number 13, I'm taking the offensive tackle out of USC, Elijah Vera Tucker. He is also a player that a lot of analysts have said can move over to guard if you have to, but he can play left tackle out of USC. They like to throw the ball at USC, so certainly a guy who knows how to pass protect. You got to protect Justin Herbert, and Herbert looks like he's already going to be a stud in the NFL, so Elijah Vera Tucker is my pick at 13.
I think it's a great pick, and it makes total sense. And like I've said in the past, these NFL offensive linemen, and especially these first rounders, are plug and play immediately. These guys are ready to go. They're smart. They're athletic. and you can move them around. You can play them in pretty much every position because they're ready to go. They're just offensive linemen. And honestly, if you're new to football, what offensive linemen are most known for is being nasty. They are just nasty guys. They will do whatever they have to do to protect the running backs and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. And that's what you're getting out of Tucker. This guy's ready to go, and he's a nasty offensive lineman. Moving on to the Vikings, and I can't believe these next two guys are available. And if they are available, man, scoop them up. Honestly, these guys could get scooped up earlier in the draft. But for our mock draft, this is what we're going to. Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith off the board from Alabama to the Minnesota Vikings. You just traded your best wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, a few years ago. Now he's lighting it up with the Buffalo Bills. You need another threat like that downfield for your quarterback to throw to. I think Devontae Smith is ready to go right now. Like I said, the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver out of Alabama, played in a great program, very accountable, and very ready to go. I mean, this is a guy that is NFL ready, runs great routes, has amazing hands. It's just all there. If he puts on a few pounds or gets a little stronger, he's just going to be even more dangerous. But I think this is the great pick for the Minnesota Vikings. And like I said, I can't believe he's still available. And I can't believe this next guy's still available. But yeah, Smith, he's ready to go.
Unbelievable. So Vikings will have Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Smith. Well, look out right there. That's going to be crazy. For the New England Patriots, at number 15, we're huge Pats fans here. We've talked about what the Pats need to do. I'd still like it if they traded up for a quarterback, but in this particular mock draft, we're just going to pick where they are right now at number 15. Again, can't believe he's still available. If they really want this guy, they might have to trade up a couple of spots to get him. That's Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. So the two Alabama receivers in our mock draft go back-to-back. Waddle's a playmaker, right? I mean, he catches the football, can do a lot with it after the catch. Speed for days. Also, like Smith, not a huge guy, but he's kind of built solidly. Like he's a little bit more stocky than Devontae Smith. Did have a small injury in college. I don't think it's going to bother him at all in the pros. And explosive. You know, the Patriots have those two tight ends. They're going to be solid for them in the red zone and on third down. And you have a couple of receivers on the outside who can get it done. But you put Waddle in the slot, you move him all around the field. He's an explosive player for this Patriots offense that needs speed offensively.
I love the pick, and I told you that when we did this mock draft the other day. Absolutely love the pick. And I could honestly see maybe 14 and 15 being switched, and maybe Waddle goes ahead of Smith because – and I'm saying this because Waddle is also an amazing return man, dynamic in the return game, so he gives you that whole different element on punt returns and kick returns. And then maybe it's also me being greedy, hoping that Devontae Smith is still available for the Patriots to take, because boy, would I love seeing this guy in a Patriots uniform. But moving on to the Arizona Cardinals, all right? And I'm going to take the best linebacker available, Micah Parsons, Penn State linebacker off the board. I think the Arizona Cardinals obviously are just gotten their defense and improved with J.J. Watt. They're looking to improve their defense a little bit more. They've got a great offense right now with great young quarterback, great receivers. I think they need to step up their defense if they're looking to go further in the league and further in the playoffs or even get to the playoffs at this point. They're short at linebacker. Micah Parsons is the best linebacker available. Wouldn't shock me if the Patriots took this guy as well, because the Patriots need a young linebacker. But yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy to go for Arizona in our mock draft.
Yeah, I'm surprised this guy fell this far. Parsons is so talented. He's got the size, super athletic, fast. There's some, concerns about his maturity. Who the heck knows with all these college kids? You just don't know. He opted out this past season as well, so you don't know how that maturity has developed over the last year, opting out of the football season and what so have you. So maybe that things have changed with Micah Parsons. But I would be surprised if he fell even this far. But that's a good pick for the Cardinals, who do need to get better on defense. Moving on to number 17 in the 2021 mock NFL draft here on Comeback Sports, the Oakland Raiders select Caleb Farley. We talked about the two top cornerbacks earlier, and then Newsome from Northwestern. There's a kind of a, is Newsome better than Farley? Farley's got the back issue. He's had 2 back surgeries now, so that he might drop because of it. But the Raiders need help in the secondary, and Farley is going to give that to them. They take him at number 17. I think the Raiders also need some offensive line help, but I don't think there's a lineman there at 17 that they really, is worth that pick. They can probably get a good lineman in the second round. That's kind of right around that range. So I think Farley's the pick there for the Raiders.
This is another guy that I'd be happy if the Patriots drafted as well, because our secondary is aging, and this is one of the better cornerbacks available. This kid can also play safety. His ball skills are amazing. He likes sticking his nose in there. I'm a huge Caleb Farley fan. Can't wait to see what he does on the next level, to be honest. Moving on to our arch nemesis in the division right now, the Miami Dolphins. They need to improve their defense a little bit more, okay, to get further in where they want to be. They haven't got any good play out of their linebackers recently, so I think they're going to go ahead and go to linebacker and pick Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Hopefully I got that name right, but this guy is lightning out of Notre Dame. Great linebacker, almost like a strong safety type as well. So he can play inside the box, but he can also cover and maybe cover a tight end or maybe even cover a slot guy right now if he picks his speed up a little bit. But this is a guy that I think is NFL ready, to be honest, and is NFL ready for any team that wants to pick this guy. A great story behind him, too. He's got a great backstory. If you want to look it out, check it out on ESPN. They're doing a great backstory on him right now. But this guy is ready to go. Another guy I'm going to be a big fan of in the NFL, really looking to see what he can do on the next level. And I'm going to take him with the Miami Dolphins with this pick in number 18.
Yeah, that dude knows how to lay the wood. That guy was sticking dudes this past year. Notre Dame's been producing a lot of good NFL defenders over the past decade now. So it's no surprise that he's going there to the Dolphins. Coach Flores is going to have a great time moving him all around the defense for Miami. As a Patriots fan, I'd be scared if he went to the Dolphins at pick number 18. At number 19, the Washington Redskins. Certainly could use another receiver. They signed Curtis Samuel, and now they just add to, how many different receivers they have on that team with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. Now at number 19 with the Washington Redskins, I am taking Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Bateman, more of a downfield threat. You got McLaurin and Samuel, who are a little bit smaller, can work inside the numbers, can play out of the slot. Bateman is a outside, down the field threat, a very good player, very good hands, got good speed. Love to see him go to the Washington Redskins there at number 19. I think that's what he's so talented, and with the Redskins right there, they have a great defense. There's not a quarterback that I think they're going to take there, so I think Bateman's the pick.
No, I think that's a solid pick. And honestly, I think the Washington Redskins right now have so many holes that they need to fill that they could pretty much draft anybody and it would be an upgrade for them. And that's kind of a sad state of affairs right now for an NFL team. But I honestly think they have a lot of holes to fill right now. So I think this would be a great pick for them at wide receiver. Having a deep threat, somebody that can stretch the secondary and go over the top, that honestly opens up a lot for your guys underneath and opens up the run game. So I think this would be a great pick. Bateman is solid. He's going to be a good NFL player. I like that pick. Let's go on and move on to the 20th pick with the Bears, the Chicago Bears. All right. And I honestly think this is another team that is maybe only a few pieces away from being good. But I think if they can pick up their defense a little bit better and just especially rushing the quarterback and rushing the passer, I think if they can do that just a little bit better, they can go a long way. And I think that's just really what they're missing. So I'm going to go with Kwity Paye, the defensive lineman out of Michigan. And this guy is so dynamic. He can play outside linebacker as well. He is so athletic. He's got great speed. He's got great talent coming off the edge. This is a guy that can pressure the quarterback, really get after the passer, and really, like I said, come off the edge with one of those dynamic pass rushes on your offensive tackles. So I think this is a guy that the Bears, it would be one of those can't miss plays where you're just going to get a guy that is ready to go, help your defense out immediately, and somebody that you need. Kwity Paye out of Michigan. And we've already talked about Michigan producing a lot of good defenders over these last few years, arguably over the last decade.
Yeah, no question. And you put Kwity Paye on one side, then you have Mack on the other. You got two nice bookends there at defensive end. The Bears could be one of those teams that tries to trade up for a quarterback, like the Patriots, like the Broncos might try to trade up a little bit, and even like the Redskins might try to trade up. But if they stay at number 20, I think that makes total sense. You put Kwity Paye opposite Mack and Khalil Mack, and you have two really dynamic defensive ends. Mack's going to draw some attention, so Kwity Paye might get a lot of one-on-one rushes on the outside for the Chicago Bears. So with the next pick in the 2021 mock NFL draft, and we're sticking with defensive end here for the Indianapolis Colts. I don't like the Colts, but they're doing actually a great job. Honestly, the Colts have done a great job in the last few years. Despite their franchise quarterback retiring, they're still a very competitive team. They're still going to be really good because they've done a great job drafting and signing free agents. So with the 21st pick, the Colts take a very talented Miami defensive end, Jalen Phillips, out of the University of Miami. Phillips, has kind of shifted around in his college career. He hasn't played a ton, but he's got some of the best measurables of any defensive end in the draft. So very talented guy, really good value at number 21.
No, I think this is a solid pick. Like you said, I was checking out his measurables. He's ready to go. This guy's a solid NFL player. He's got the NFL size, speed, athletic ability, can get off the edge. And this is a guy that you can move around. You can maybe even move him inside. And he's played at a great program, a program that has been building up. But their strength and conditioning program at Miami is second to none right now. And so this guy is built. He is strong. And I'm telling you, this guy is NFL ready. So I think that's a great pick for the Colts. Moving on to the 22nd pick, I'm going to continue this run on defenders. I'm going to take linebacker Zaven Collins. And this guy is a great guy. This is a guy that can go edge to edge, like sideline to sideline. And that's what you want in the NFL, an athletic linebacker out of Tulsa that can fly around, likes to hit, great job tackling. So I'm talking about just solid tackling, just great, like as far as he's not going to miss a tackle. When he wants to tackle somebody, it's done. He makes it happen. And like I said, he can go end to end really fast. This is an athletic player out of Tulsa, a smaller program, but this guy is NFL ready. And this might be one of Tulsa's highest first round picks in a long time. But I think he's ready to go. He could honestly go higher in the draft, but we have him going 22 to the Titans. I think they do need to bolster their defense. Obviously, they've got a great offense right now. Just hand the ball off to King Henry and control the ball, and you can win the game. So if they can keep the other team from scoring, I think that would be huge. So let's improve our defense. If I'm the Titans, let's go with an athletic linebacker, end-to-end, Zaven Collins.
Yeah, he's a guy that the Patriots have been linked to as well if they trade back in the first round of the draft. They pick up an extra pick in the second round to move back from 15 to the 20s. This could be the guy that they take, but that makes total sense for the Titans. They need to shore up that front seven. That used to be a huge strength of theirs. They kind of went away from that. They need to get back there again. I think the Tennessee Titans do with that pick. So with number 23, picking for the New York Jets, yay. The New York Jets definitely need a defensive end, especially on defense. Robert Saleh, he wants to create pressure. We saw it in San Francisco. San Francisco had a great defensive line when he was the defensive coordinator there. So with the 23rd pick in the first round of the mock NFL draft, the New York Jets take Azeez Ojulari, the defensive end out of Georgia. Georgia's produced a lot of good defensive players over the last few years. And Ojulari is just going to be another guy in that vein. Another guy that has good measurables, super athletic, can get to the quarterback, outside pass rusher. And again, the Jets, with Robert Saleh, they're going to want to create pressure, and Ojulari is the guy that can do that for them.
Great pick. And like you said, their new coach with Robert Saleh, he's going to look to really turn that defense up. And now that would give him a little weapon to be able to play with and adjust his defense and coming in. And I think this is a guy that fits his system as well. Not to mention you went quarterback with your first pick around. And so either you're going to look to protect that quarterback and maybe get an offensive lineman, or since you're saying Saleh's a defensive-minded guy, I could definitely see him going offense first with filling that quarterback need and then getting a defender to be able to play and do his system. And I think that would be a great pick. I think Azeez is ready to go. Hey, give us a subscribe. Give us a like. You're loving this pre-mock draft show. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe, man. Give us a call in. I'm ready to hear what you got to say. I know you guys want to talk trash about my picks. So give us a call. And let's see what happens, all right? I'd like to answer one of your calls live, to be honest. All right, but let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got an aging quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, who's arguably only got a year or two left. I'm going to go ahead and go with Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama, to go ahead and replace it. We've already talked about how the NFL is quarterback needy, quarterback starving. All right, there's not that many good quarterbacks, so they will take a quarterback first round if they need to fill that void. And I think this is a team that does need to fill that void. I think there's some other options that they could go with tomorrow night. But in our mock draft, I think Mac Jones is still available. People have talked about this guy going in the top 10. I don't think he's a top 10 talent, but I think I could see him going 24th overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers to replace an aging quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. Or I could even see Mac Jones dropping a little bit and being that guy that's just sitting at the table thinking, oh, man, why am I not getting picked? But then he gets picked immediately in the second round. But for our mock draft, I think it's great pick for them to go with Mac Jones, a solid player, ready to go and fill in our quarterback position when Ben Roethlisberger leaves, and that's soon.
Yeah, no question. I think you look at Mac Jones and you just can picture him in a Steelers uniform. I think that would be a really good pick for them. I could also see if he falls this far even further, you could see a team that didn't necessarily get their quarterback earlier in the first round trade back into the end of the first round to draft a Mac Jones. But good pick there for the Steelers for Pittsburgh at number 24. At number 25, the Jaguars, again, back on the clock. Obviously, they took their franchise quarterback and Trevor Lawrence, no brainer there. This time, the Jaguars try to shore up their defense. They take defensive end out of Miami, Greg Rousseau. Rousseau is tall, long, edge defender. Guy's got good athleticism, still a little bit raw for a defensive end, especially in the first round. But I think this guy has a lot of potential. I think the Jaguars need to shore up that defense. They gave up a lot of points last year, and they've lost some defensive linemen over the past few years. So Rousseau would be a nice pick there in the late 20s for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a franchise that went from Saxonville to getting no sacks. Right. So it's like
Saxonville on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we need to shore up both sides. So I think that would be a great pick to go ahead and bring in a young defender and try to get after the quarterback again. Like we said, the NFL loves passing the ball, so you really need to pressure the quarterback if you're on defense. So I think it's a great pick for almost any NFL team if you can get a pass rusher. I've even talked about with people being, hey, the Patriots need a pass rusher. Even though we just got Matthew Judon, we still need another pass rusher just because it's a pass-heavy league. You just need to get after the quarterback. Moving on to the 26th pick overall with the Cleveland Browns. I'm a former running back. I love this guy. I think he's ready to go. He's ready to pound it. We've already got Nick Chubb, but I'm going to go ahead and take the best running back available. Arguably, I've got the other guy coming up later in the draft that is arguably the other best running back available in the draft. But let's go ahead and lock in Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. This guy is NFL ready. I hope producer Ben is showing where he hurdled the guy in the playoffs, because that was just amazing. He's so talented, so athletic, but he can also run you over. He can run around you. This guy is ready to go. He's an NFL solid running back. Just fit him in there. And like I said, we've already got Chubb, but I believe the NFL is moving more towards a running back by committee. So why not have two great running backs? Once one gets tired, put the other guy in, and let's just keep pounding it. Pound it with these two running backs. So I'm taking Najee Harris, 26 overall, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it makes sense. Both guys can catch the ball in the backfield too. So two very dynamic running backs. There's even talk that the Steelers might take him at 24. As people have said, their offense hasn't been right since Le'Veon Bell, went in free agency. So he could be a pick at 24. But at our mock draft, number 26 of the Browns makes all the sense in the world. For the 27th pick in the 2021 mock NFL draft here on Comeback Sports, the Baltimore Ravens select defensive tackle Christian Barmore. Barmore is the first defensive tackle to come off the board here in the first round of the NFL draft. It seems like defensive tackles have been the strength of the NFL draft for like 20 years. This is the first time in a long time. There aren't a lot of good first-round defensive tackles. Guys are probably going to go second, third, fourth round this year. Barmore is the one guy that a lot of analysts believe is going to go in the first round. The Ravens, lost a few guys on the front seven in free agency, including Judon that you just talked about. Barmore is he's more of an inside defensive lineman, but he could probably move outside a little bit too. He's got some good length as well. So Barmore there at 27 for the Baltimore Ravens.
No, I think that's a solid pick, especially another guy out of Alabama. I think we added it up, and I think we took, when the draft is done, we're going to have 7 or 8 Alabama players in the first round, which is not unheard of for a team like Alabama, to be honest. Moving quickly back to Najee Harris, though, there's also rumors and a lot of talk that the Jets, with their second pick, might be looking to take Najee Harris and now give their young quarterback that Jay just took a great option out of the backfield. And remember, hey, running the ball will open up the pass game as well. So I think that could be a solid pick if the Jets select him. They do. I think that's going to really hurt us as the Patriots having to deal with a guy like Najee Harris twice because this guy's a beast, I'm telling you. But moving on to the Saints, the 28th pick overall, the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, Drew Brees just retired, but hey, we have 2 quarterbacks. We're going to see who's going to play the best. I obviously think it's going to be Jameis Winston. I think we need to protect this guy, give him some time to throw. Let's go ahead and take Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. Honestly, tomorrow night, I think this guy is going to go much higher in the draft than we've even had him go. He might even go in the top 15. So that he slipped here, to me, I just had to take him. And I think it's a solid pick for the New Orleans Saints to be able to stir up an offensive line and give Jameis Winston a little bit more time back there. And we're talking about Jameis Winston, a gunslinger. If you give him a little bit more time, I think he can get the job done. I think he has developed. He's got it healthy. He's got that shoulder fixed. He got the LASIK surgery to fix that eye problem. I'm ready to see what Jameis Winston can do as a starting quarterback in the NFL for the Saints. Let's go ahead and give him a little bit more time, secure up that offensive line for him, and protect him. And I think Tevin Jenkins is honestly one of the best offensive linemen in the draft right now. Let's take him 28th overall to the New Orleans Saints. Let's party on Mardi Gras too.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Offensive line play it's kind of struggled in the NFL over the last few years. I think it's going to start to get better. You're seeing, last year there was a good amount of young offensive linemen that went early in the draft. This year you're seeing a lot of offensive linemen who are, either going to be good tackles or good guards. A lot of analysts actually think some of these tackles are going to move inside to guard, and they're going to be really good at the guard position. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Some guys probably will, and some guys will probably stay at tackle. But that makes total sense. If you can get a good lineman that's going to be your rock for the next few years, why not do it right there? So the Green Bay Packers are up next with the 29th pick in the 2021 mock NFL draft. And for the Green Bay Packers, I want another solid, sure guy, slot receiver for the Packers. I'm taking Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. Again, another player that the Patriots seem to really like. He kind of fits their mold of a slot receiver. Smaller guy, but again, strong, solidly built, great hands. Really good after the catch. He's a guy that I think the Packers, you have him in the slot. You have Javonte Adams on the outside. And you've got a nice little 1-2 combination there at the receiver spot. I know they have some other younger guys at receiver that are nice bit pieces, but they're not necessarily like that solid number 2. You have him with Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers didn't get any help in the first round last year. He got a quarterback right behind him in Jordan Love. So, now he gets a guy that can help him offensively, Elijah Moore at Ole Miss.
Yeah, no, I agree. That last year they should have taken an offensive talent to try to load up and give Rodgers a little bit more chance to go after another Super Bowl. I think this would be a great pick for them. I think Elijah Moore is a first-round talent. There's been some talk about him falling back to the second round, which I've been shocked about. But I think this is a great pick for the Packers. Like you said, Davante Adams is a beast. He is going to draw double coverage. So guess what? That leaves somebody open, and it's usually the slot guy. So, hey, let's throw in Moore there, a great guy that is going to work his way open and give Aaron Rodgers another target to throw to. I think that's a great pick. Moving on to the 30th pick with the Buffalo Bills, our other arch nemesis right now. Really one of the better teams in the NFL right now. They are playing great. And I'm going to go ahead and give, on a meteoric rise, right? I am going to give Josh Allen another offensive weapon out of the backfield. And this is the guy that I was talking about. Hey, he arguably is one of the better running backs available, if not the best running back available, and that is Travis Etienne out of Clemson. We're talking about a guy that had a bunch of solid seasons at Clemson. He could have came out and got drafted in the first round last year. He stuck around, played another solid season. He had an injury, I think, at one point. It set him back a little bit, but then he bounced right back. You could see why this guy was going to be a first-round talent last year, because he had a great second half of the year. And I'm telling you, Travis Etienne is just ready to go. Give him the ball. You can throw him the ball out of the backfield. So this is why I'm saying it's just another offensive weapon for Josh Allen. So you got Stephon Diggs. Now you got Travis Etienne. If I'm the Patriots, man, I need to find somebody to cover these guys.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. That's why they might take a quick linebacker in the first round of this draft if they don't get Jalen Waddle or a quarterback there at 15. I think that makes all the sense in the world. ATN, really good out of the backfield, too. You see all these guys like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or some of these other backs that have come out over the last few years that can really catch the ball in the backfield. ATN is one of them. There are some experts that believe that ATN is better than Harris. So we'll see how that shakes out here in the draft, and we'll see how that shakes out in their careers. But they're clearly the top two backs in this draft. So that makes sense to give Buffalo another offensive weapon to go along with what they have there already. Really good backfield now for Buffalo. With the next pick, it's number 31 with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're getting close to the end of the first round of the draft. And for the Chiefs, obviously we've talked about the offensive linemen, how they struggled in the Super Bowl. They couldn't protect Mahomes. So with the Chiefs, 31st pick in the first round of the NFL draft, I'm taking Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle out of Alabama. He's a guy who's a very tough, run blocking, rock solid offensive lineman. They might move him to guard. He might play right tackle, but another more talent to shore up that Kansas City offensive line. They signed Joe Thuney to a big contract, and they've acquired a couple other players over the last few weeks with some later round draft picks and so forth. But with this, they shore up their offensive line even more with Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick, and I think that's our final Alabama player. Man, we might have drafted their whole team. But it doesn't shock me with Alabama because, like I said, that happens a lot, honestly. They're just on the rise with total number of players drafted into the NFL. And talk about a recruiting pitch to just lock up there, being like, hey, you want to get drafted in the first round of the NFL? Well, why don't you come to Alabama? It works. It works all the time, right? But I think that is a great pick. I think Alex Leatherwood is just one of those other offensive linemen that you can plug and play, and he's just ready to go coming out of a solid program, like we just said. But, hey, before I make this final pick, we have just cruised through these 32 picks. And I told producer Ben that we could, and we crushed it, baby. And we've got time to spare. So why don't you give us a subscribe, give us a like, all right? We're going to have a few other things to chat about the draft because we just crushed it, baby. But I'm going to make the final pick of our mock draft. The Buccaneers have pretty much re-signed everybody. They don't need anybody. They're ready to go to make another run at the Super Bowl, and kind of the Chiefs are too. But honestly, if they're going to make a pick, I think they're going to trade back because they don't need anybody, honestly. But if they're going to make a pick, I would think they would take a defender, and I'm going to go with Jason Oweh, defensive lineman, and I think that would be a good choice for them. Honestly, they just re-signed Sue, and they re-signed Shaq Barrett, but hey, give these guys a little bit of a breather, and let's keep them fresh for second and third down. So maybe you have Jason Oweh come in here and look to stop the run in those early downs and give those guys a little bit of rest so they can come in on second and third and fourth down if you need them to and get after the passer, the things that they do the best. But like I said, Tampa Bay is pretty much stacked. They've re-signed everybody. They're ready to make another Super Bowl run. So, hey, why not add another young player and let him get a Super Bowl ring? Jason Oweh is the one to get it.
No question. You kind of shore up that defensive line again. A couple of the guys are a little bit older on the D-line, so you got to bring a young guy in. And, defensive ends, you can move an outside linebacker. You also, a lot of defensive line or teams rotate their defensive line where you have 6-7 guys that rotate in and out throughout the game because now with so much passing, the defensive linemen are rushing the passer so much that takes so much out of you that you rotate in a lot of different guys. So that makes total sense. Plus, when you have a team that just went on a Super Bowl run, some of those guys, they sometimes don't have as much of an edge because they've won that ring that they normally do. So you're bringing a young guy who just wants to make a name for himself. So that makes total sense right there for the Buccaneers. That's it for our first round of our mock NFL draft. We're just doing the first round, folks. We could be here all night talking about the whole entire draft. But just a couple of things we're going to go over now, and we're going to try to do this on the fly here, is talk about this first round of the NFL draft. And Brandon, you mentioned that Alabama had, I think, 8 picks in the first round. 8 players go in the first round. It seems like, maybe because of the pandemic and maybe because that some of the smaller schools didn't have a season this past year, that a lot of the big Power 5 schools have, they usually have most of the prospects. But this year, you look at our picks, really it's only, Trey Lance out of North Dakota State, who people have been talking about since day one, and then Zaven Collins out of Tulsa, that are non-Power 5 players. I think everybody else, if I might be getting this wrong, but I think every other player we selected went to a Power 5 school. So, do you think this is because of the pandemic, and a lot of these players have either been seen or they've played on the national stage so much? Why do you think this is how this might fall tomorrow night?
Well, no, I think it does play into it, the pandemic, a little bit, because you even had some of these guys opt out and they're still being seen as first round talent. And that's because what they did last year was enough. They put enough on game film for the scouts to be able to see. And then B, their measurables are all adding up and their pro days turned out well. And here's another thing too. I had tweeted it out too, is I think the pro days pretty much helped out everybody, because you didn't have the normal combine, right? We didn't have the normal combine in Indianapolis. Everybody got to have their pro day on their university or on their college campus with their coaching staff and with their teammates. So I think everybody pretty much put in good numbers and had good showings at their pro days. And I even said some of the 40 times were BS to me, because it seemed like everybody was running sub 4.5 or sub 4.4. And I'm like, that is BS. Not everybody is that fast. And so I think that has to do with your coach being on the clock at your pro day. And even some of the scouts, and just not being in Indianapolis and having to go and travel to all these pro days. But I also think, and we've talked about this in the past, if you're looking for a sure bet, first round picks, you have to pay them a lot. They're locked into 3 or 4 year contracts automatically. So you are tied to these guys, whether you like it or not. And some of them can't pan out, AKA Ryan Leaf. If you have Mac Jones or Trey Lance go early in the top 3 picks, it's going to set up a potential Ryan Leaf situation in the future, because you don't know if these guys are going to pan out, but you're going to have to spend a lot of money to see if they even do pan out. So if I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice and have to spend that much guaranteed money, I'm going to look to spend it on a guaranteed guy out of a Power 5 school, okay, like a Justin Fields, like a Trevor Lawrence, that have won national titles, that have played on the big stage, that are ready to go. So I think that does have a big deal and played out, and especially in our mock draft, I think it played out like that as well. And like I said, Alabama, that's just a team, they produce NFL talent all the time. So us taking 8 Alabama players in the first round, you could see that tomorrow night. You might even see 9 players go in the first round tomorrow out of Alabama, because they just produce so much NFL talent. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it did play into it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the big thing is a lot of teams, I know the Patriots look at it this way, they have in the past with drafts. You, in the first round, especially if you're in the middle to the back half of the draft, you try to find a player who you think is going to be a starting level and possibly Pro Bowl level player, but at least a starting level player from day one, very consistent player. Because what happens is you get the 4-year contract, but then the team option is the 5th year. So if you really like this player for 4 years, you can then hang on to them for a 5th year with a rookie deal, which is huge. Especially that's why I think a lot of teams wait till the back end of the first round to take running backs, because now you're getting the running backs prime from age 22 to 27 for 5 years under a rookie contract, when the running back is going to be most productive. So I think, that's one of the other things too, is when you take players from these Power 5 schools, if you think they're a little bit more of a sure thing, you do that to keep them on that 5-year contract. Then teams tend to take bigger chances in the second round with either smaller school guys or guys with injury problems. Remember, the Patriots did it with Rob Gronkowski. It worked out really well. There's some other players that have gone in the second round that we thought were big talents, but they've either had injury problems in the NFL or they just didn't pan out. So that's when, again, I think even more so going to be where the players that the teams want to take chances on and go in the second and third round. Because this is a deep draft. This is a very deep draft, especially an offensive line and wide receiver. So I think the second round is when teams are going to be taking chances, especially at some of the smaller school guys. So that's going to be really interesting. Again, absolutely.
I've got a question for you now, though. I've got a question for you. And I think you're right. I think this is a deep draft. And personally, it's one of my favorite drafts over the last few years because I think you've got talent going into the third or fourth round in this draft. But my question for you is, with the big news that broke today out of Denver, with them trading for Teddy Bridgewater, what would you do? Would you still take Trey Lance, or would you look to get an offensive weapon or do something else with that pick?
I think the only thing they don't need is receiver. So I don't think they'll take a receiver at 9. I know they've been tied to Micah Parsons. We saw him drop, a few more picks after the Broncos. So he could be a player that they take there. Vic Fangio, is a defensive-minded guy. So he might really want the quick linebacker. Denver's had really quick linebackers in the past with Von Miller, Brandon Marshall. Some of those guys have really been quick linebackers there for Denver. They could take a defensive back if they feel like one of those guys, if either one of those guys is still there, which they probably will be, at least one of them, either Horn or Surtain. But if I were them, I think I like Trey Lance. I've actually liked him more as the last couple of days have gone on. Just hearing how much he was involved with the passing game at North Dakota State. I know he didn't play a lot of games. I know he played at a much lower level than the SEC or the Pac-12 or the Big Ten. But he had a huge command of the offense at North Dakota State. He played under center more, and he was able to call a lot of protections, call a lot of audibles in that offense. So if I'm Denver and, you're still looking for that, top-end quarterback, you now have Teddy Bridgewater. I think, because they acquired Teddy Bridgewater, they're saying Drew Lock just isn't the guy. He just isn't the guy. And if they don't think he's the guy and Lance is there, take him. Lance can sit for a year because he hasn't played that much behind Teddy Bridgewater, who's the consummate professional, very smart quarterback, will run the offense well. He's the perfect guy for Lance to learn behind. So I think at number 9, I'd still take Lance if he's there.
I think that's a solid move. And honestly, Trey Lance has grown on me throughout this draft process. I had an argument on Twitter, at the beginning of the draft process, with a guy saying, this guy is not going to be drafted in the first round. But honestly, I think now he is. He definitely is going to get drafted in the first round. I still think, though, he's arguably the third best quarterback available with Zach Wilson. I've got to go with Trevor Lawrence ahead of him, obviously. And I've got to go with Justin Fields ahead of him, man. And if Justin Fields doesn't get drafted ahead of him tomorrow, I think it's going to be a huge mistake for whatever NFL team does. But I also think if you get Trey Lance, you're not going to miss out. You're going to get a good player. He's going to develop. He's a young, mobile quarterback. He can throw the ball down the field. So I think why not take a chance on Trey Lance? But if I'm the Broncos, here's what I think is happening right now. I think that they think Drew Lock has got a little too comfortable thinking that he's the starter, has no competition. So let's bring in somebody. Now we have a quarterback competition. Hey, Drew, you're going to have to prove you are the guy now to be our starting quarterback. Either that's going to elevate Drew Lock's game, or he's just going to fall out and dud out, and Teddy Bridgewater will be able to take the reins. So I'm going to go ahead and I take offensive lineman. I take Vera Tucker from USC and bump him out and get a little bit more protection for whoever my quarterback's going to be. Or if I'm Vic Fangio, he guy loves defense, try to get that defender to go and fit into my system. But yeah, I think what they're doing right now is creating a quarterback competition for Drew Lock to see if he is the man or not.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that's huge. That's going to determine the pick. Do they think Drew Lock's the future at the quarterback position for the Broncos and just needs either to learn behind Teddy Bridgewater or get a foot in the ass, essentially, to try to become the starter for the Broncos? Or do they not think he's the guy, and then will they go after a Trey Lance? Because they have so many good receivers and pass catchers and backs there, that are dynamic pass catchers. So, once they get that guy, their offense is going to be rocking and rolling again, kind of like back in the Peyton Manning days when he was, the MVP of the league and throwing all those touchdowns. Omaha, yeah, absolutely, man. One final thing, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know that there's so many players to think about. Who's a guy that we didn't pick in the first round who you think either might be picked in the first round, or a guy that you think is going to be great value in the second round?
Oh, man, that's tough, honestly. That's such a tough question. I might even have to go back to my notes, to be honest. But it's one of those things where I think, like I said, you might see Mac Jones drop to the early second round, and he would be a steal, I think, early in the second round. But I think the other guy is Travis Etienne. Most people have Travis Etienne going in the second round within the first 5 picks of the second round. I think this is the guy that is probably the most NFL-ready guy that has been in second-round rumors, because honestly, I drafted him 30th overall to the Buffalo Bills in the first round. So I think he's really one of those guys that is kind of on the edge of being a first or a second-round talent. But everything I've seen from this guy over the years at Clemson is that he's NFL-ready and ready to go. So I think Travis Etienne would kind of be that like little diamond in the rough, per se, that might fall to the early second round.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I also think, guy, we didn't talk about Javonte Williams, the running back out of North Carolina. A lot of teams like him too. He can catch the ball in the backfield, and as I mentioned, you pick him, at the very end of the first round. Then you have a running back for 4 years, then a team option for the 5th year. So that could be an option for a team as well at the very end of the first round of the draft. So that would be. This is going to be a great draft. There's a lot going on. You and I love football. We're going to be excited, especially as Patriot fans. The drafts have been kind of boring because they always trade back. But this year, it's going to be very exciting to see what they do at 15. So, folks,
another guy to look after too. And the rumor has it that if the Patriots don't get their quarterback in the first round, that they might take this guy in the second round. And he arguably should be in this quarterback talk, and he hasn't been. Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. He's got all the measurables to be an NFL quarterback. And last year and this year in the SEC, he threw 19 touchdowns and I believe only 6 interceptions. Had a great year, is also mobile and can run the ball. So honestly, Kellen Mond might also be that diamond in the rough. And you might see the Patriots, if he's still available in the second round, move around to make sure that they get a young quarterback. And it might be Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M.
Definitely. If they don't go up to get a quarterback, they might trade back to get a good defensive player or receiver in the first round. Then they might have the ammo to trade up in the second round to get a Kellen Mond. Davis Mills is another guy that they've been linked to at quarterback as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple of days with the NFL draft. Folks, that's going to do it for our show this week on Comeback Sports. Once again, you want to follow us on Twitter. You follow those 2 Twitter handles at the bottom of the screen, and also subscribe on YouTube. And if you want to call into our show, find that number at the very bottom of the screen right there. You can call in, leave a voicemail. You can call us during the show and give your opinion about what sports topics we're going to be talking about, including this mock NFL draft, because next week we're going to be reacting to the draft, the entire thing, not just the first round, but the entire draft overall. As always, it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being with us, folks, here tonight. We'll see you next time on Comeback Sports. Good night, everybody.